It's Kendell Lenice, and welcome to Kendell Lenice Live right here on Facebook. Before we get started, do me a favor and subscribe below. It's so important that you do that and like and comment, because your comments do matter when it comes to the content that I'm putting up here for you. So my whole purpose is to educate, elevate, and entertain you. So hopefully I am doing that on this series, Kendell Lenice Live Interview Series. So I'm so happy that I have one of my wonderful guests back, Rah Johnson, and we're going to be talking about her film career and all of the amazing things that she's been a part of and that she continues to be a part of. So before we get started, let me just read, as always, a little bit of her bio. Now, she was on before, so I'm going to kind of do a different bio. So if you're interested in her bio, go back and look at her episode as we talked about her amazing career in art. So today is just almost like a part two, because she's doing so many things, we couldn't get everything in. And I'm sure you want to hear about her film career as a wardrobe stylist and a whole lot more. All right. So again, this is Rah Johnson. And from Analog, I guess we can start there, right? Analog NYC. Wait, I think I said that wrong. Let me say that again.
Analog Art NYC.
Yeah, Analog Art NYC. You just saw a sneak preview of her. All right. So Rah is working on several projects right now. Her new series is Analog Art NYC, promoting and growing and I'm just reading her words for you, promoting and growing her Kente Couture brand. She's currently finishing the website for that. So there are going to be a lot of amazing items on there for you to purchase, including the fanny pack that I am a part of that I will be getting. So some of her film highlights range from the movie in 2006. She won many indie film awards and is available to view online. So we'll talk about that. She was a costume assistant. Macy's in 2006, she was a part of their holiday commercial campaign as an assistant stylist. The Hunger Ghost in 2008, directed by Michael Imperioli, aka Christopher from The Sopranos, and starring many of the stars from Sopranos. So she was a part of that. Miracle at St. Anna in 2009, which was directed by the one and only Spike Lee, starring John Turturro. What is his name? Turturro.
Mm-hmm.
He's in a lot of his
he's movies. In a lot of stuff. He's in all of his.
Yeah. Harry Washington and Laz Alonso. She's worked on many other films, but those are the most recognizable ones. But she's worked on a lot that you may not know behind the scenes on those as well. And she has so many funny stories about film that she is going to share with us. But she also was a stylist assistant on Celebrity Apprentice season 12. We'll have to find out how that was like, that experience, and who was on that season. She also worked for the Broke A game show as a wardrobe stylist, and she was a supervisor on Hunger Ghost, as she stated, and costume assistant on Miracle. So we just had some highlights right there, had some bullet points on all the things that she's doing, but let's formally welcome Rah Johnson. Hey!
Hello, everybody.
She looks a little different. She got her braids in, looking cute.
They're about to come out.
All right, so when you were on before, we talked about your illustrious career in the arts. And Analog Art NYC is your baby. And now you are working on Kente Couture and a whole lot more. And I'm looking behind you. So if you watched the first show, you heard about the booty photo. And that is the booty photo.
Here's all her glory.
Wow. She paid, but those
she needs some finishing. Yeah, I wanted the bigger thighs. Like, this is like my ideal body. If I could have any body, I want big thighs and little top. But that's just me. So, all my bodies kind of, even if they're different bodies, they kind of mimic what I I want my body to be, so, or what my body used to be.
But that's an amazing photo, as I was talking about it, where people couldn't see it before. So I'm glad that you're highlighting that in the back, because that's an amazing photo and it shows your skill. And I'm looking at the blue background. So was you painted the blue and everything?
Yes. My phone
That's okay.
Yeah, no, I painted everything. So yeah.
That's so good. So how long? So tell me a little bit about that portrait, and we'll get into your film career. So tell me a little bit about that portrait. What compelled you to paint that?
Well, that particular piece, I've really been wanting to do like a body and more like sensual erotic series for years now. But that's something that is personal to me. Like I'm going to just reveal something personal, but I was molested by a few people as a kid. And it really had something to do with the way I operated as a woman in my life. So I really just wanted to do something to really just kind of get that side of me out artistically. So this has been something I've been mulling over for a few years now. So it's like, you know, I just decided, since I had this time, like I was gonna wait because I had a different series that I wanted to do before that. But but you know, that one really spoke to me, and I just put aside another series that I was gonna do in order to do that one. So yeah, I just kind of started it, and a friend of mine sent me pictures from a friend of his that said it was okay for me to use her pictures. So I did that and just kind of started. And, you know, it doesn't look exactly like her body. I really more just used it for a reference for the shape and the position and all that stuff. But, you know, it just was something I wanted to do, and I used the colors I used, and I decided. Can you hold on for 1 second? I want to just plug my phone in so I don't get cut off.
So Rashida is working on so many different things as far as art in her career, and she has the amazing ability to work in the art field, if you will, as a creative artist. I think it's so important that you're able to really walk in your purpose and walk with what you love to do. She's getting her camera adjusted right now, but just think about, people always ask, and as a life coach, I always ask my clients, if you could do anything where no one would pay you, what would it be? And that's really where your passion is. That's your passion work. So with Rashida, she is working in her passion. Is that everything?
Okay. Yeah, I'm there. I'm almost there. 1 sec. I'm so sorry.
Okay. This is live, y'all. This is what happens.
I know. This is the stuff that happens. Okay.
And we got a better shot of the booty.
Exactly. Exactly.
Right. So you said that this is going to be a series. This is going to be a collection.
Yeah.
Can you talk about some of the other things that you want to do within this collection? And I think it's empowering that you took something like molestation and really transformed that into this beautiful piece of art, and now later this collection. So tell me about the collection.
Well, I've researched pictures over the years for this series, but I kind of want to go a lot deeper than this. Like, this is just it's sensual. It's somewhat sexual. To me, it's not very sexual, but to some people, it's very sexual. And I really just want to show the beauty of the woman's body, and like, we should embrace that. But some of the pieces, and I'm still milling over what pictures I'm going to use. I'm going to definitely use the rest of the pictures from the girl. And they're just very like peekaboo, you know, but some of it's get a little more raw, you know, and, you know, some people might not feel it. Some people might, but this project is really for me, you know, and whoever's ready with it, like a lot of people already want this piece. So I'm actually found an all over t-shirt printing company to get the whole thing, because I don't want just like a square on a t-shirt. I want the whole thing on a whole t-shirt. So I'm working on that now to sell them as t-shirts and deciding what else I'm going to do with them.
Yeah.
But Yeah, so that's just something I'm working on. And one thing I decided was that all of the bodies from here on out, because if you look at my website, some of my older pieces, there's a series that I did for a Nina Simone event, and it's Nina Simone, Grace Jones, and Whitney Houston. Whitney Houston and Grace Jones are in full color, but the Nina Simone picture I found was black and white. So I could have translated into color with her skin tone, but I really liked it black and white with a bold background, because she talked a lot about, the blackness and, what it means to be a black person. So I kept her black and white and made a really colorful, crazy background. So I feel like that's where I want to go with the rest of it, because coming from where I came from in that realm, it's like you kind of feel like there's nothing there. So for me, that's what the black and white represents. And then the colorful background is like, for me, where I came from, after that. So, yeah.
So will the collection be called? Do you know yet?
I'm not sure. I have no idea. A lot of my stuff is untitled. I have absolutely no idea what it'll be called. Actually, a lot of my stuff is titled. I'm lying. But probably about half of it is untitled. So I'm not sure. I have to, it's just going to have to come to me in a dream or something, or it'll just remain entitled Erotic series,
Yeah. So, well, I think it's gonna be, I think if that's any indication of what it's going to be like, I think it's going to be pretty dope. Because that is perfect. And I'm not talking about the shape of the butt is perfect, although that is perfect too. That's pretty much perfection. But I mean, just the whole, how you contoured it, how you design. I mean, it clearly you're talented. There's no question. Looking at that, that's amazing. So I know that you had an illustrious career, as I spoke about. You've done so many things. We couldn't even get them in on the first part, and probably not even here. We're going to get everything in. But you were talking about your film experience, and you wanted to share some of that. You said you had some funny stories. So let's start wherever you want to start. Which film do you want to talk about first?
I was really surprised when I finished the interview with you that we talked quite a bit about my film experience, that I didn't talk about the shopping. Like, people just think that you're willy-nilly just shopping around the city eating crumpets and tea all day, but it's a really rough job, And for anyone who wants to go into film, especially if they want to go into wardrobe, I just really kind of want to put out there what it entails, because it's a lot more than people think it is. And then it's rewarding on certain levels, but it's a stressful job, so I just kind of wanted to give, and I know about other areas of film, but just give people who are interested in film, some ideas on how they can get in, some ideas on what that industry entails, because, working in that industry, I just kind of fell into it, I worked on a couple of crappy projects before this, and I didn't know anything about film. I'm just I was turned off. But when I came upon the Made in New York production assistant training program for film, it really opened my eyes to what the film industry was and got me a good start in film. And they're way further along now. So we're getting put on jobs that you're only making $75 a day. These new people are getting put onto jobs where they're making $300 a day. So it's definitely a career where you can make good money, but there are aspects to it. Like, people think, oh, you work in film, that's so cool, but they don't know there's a difference between working in independent film as opposed to big budgets films, or working in one department versus another. So
okay, let's talk about that. So since you said that they don't understand and they think film, okay, this is a fun job, but let's talk about the differences between an independent budget, working with little to no budget sometimes, to a major motion picture budget, and some of the differences. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, so it's I don't remember what exactly the budget level is for it to be considered an independent versus a big budget, but let's just say it's $2 million. I'm not really sure, but look that up. But let's just say it's $2 million. That sounds like a lot of money, but when you think about the things that go into it, it's really not a lot of money. So on an independent film, say the budget is $1 million, I mean, there are like 100 people you have to pay. So if you break down that $1 million into 100 people, that's one thing. But then it's not just the 100 people. It's the budget for wardrobe. It's the budget for lighting. It's the budget for grip and electric to build things, to, you know, for all these supplies, for food every day. They feed us every day. That's one perk in working in film, is you get fed every day, no matter what. And you know, when you factor all those things in on a low budget film, like the highest I've made on an independent project, and this was like a pilot for a company that I won't name, but it was a children's program, and I was really disappointed in that. I'll talk about it later, but I was really happy about what I made. I was making like $500 a day, but it was a lot of stress. I really slept like 1 hour a day or 2 hours a day. I was running around like a crazy person all the time, but I was really pleased with the final product. But some of the things that went on just didn't, it just weren't for me, you know, and it really made me question like what I wanted to do in film, what areas I wanted to work in, because even the executives that I was working with from that company, like when the situation happened, they were just like, oh, well, this is what the executives want. And I'm like, well, I'm not going to do it, you know, and you have to really stand up for you, because I've seen people get talked to crazy. Like, it's something that I've never experienced, but I've seen people get talked to crazy. And a lot of people that work in these freelance industries, they're trying to get their next job. They're trying to be on top. Everything is a competition. So like, some people's form of power for themselves is to talk down to people. That's not my thing. I never had anyone do it to me in film just because of who I am, but I've seen maybe less, I don't want to say strong, but maybe less, I don't know, less pliable people get talked to crazy, and it would bother me. Like, it was not good for my spirit, you know, as an industry to see that all the time. But the good things outweighed that for me when I was working in it. You know what I mean?
So were you, when you said you were an assistant stylist, wardrobe assistant, so tell us, for the people who don't know, and they don't know anything about film, they don't know anything about wardrobe, maybe they didn't even know that there were wardrobe stylists. Let's talk about that role. So what did you do exactly?
So it really depends on the project, but I'd say if you're working on more like editorial type stuff, which is more styling, there are different roles. But for film specifically, you have the costume designer is the main person. You have a wardrobe supervisor who's right under them, who they might do some designing and shopping. I did a lot of shopping and designing with her. But that depends on the project. So I'm just go through some of the roles. You have costume designer, wardrobe supervisor. You can have a wardrobe assistant, which works with the wardrobe person. You can have a costume assistant, which works with the costume person. So the difference between wardrobe and costume, they're two totally different unions. So I could be in both unions, but I can't work on I can't work on a union job as a costume designer when I only am in the union for wardrobe. And the difference between that is the costume designer's main role is to design the outfits based on the characters, based on the script. The wardrobe supervisor is more of like an office manager. They might do some design because you're going to overlap, but mostly they're shopping, they're organizing everything, they're going over the script. Like, you read the script at least 5 times, just to, at the very least, because you have to break down everything. Like, when you watch a movie, everything is in sequential order, but when you're filming it, you might film the very last scene in the movie the first day. So you have to think of things like, this might be something more for a set dresser or a continuity person, but you have to think, we're filming the last day on the first day of filming. We have to think of what they look like in the scene before that, because we might film that 2 days later. So you have to make it match. You know what I mean? So
and we know in some movies they're not doing a good job. Because sometimes so many things are left out. Because I watch a movie with a critical eye, and I even go down to nail color. I'm like, okay, she just had on white. Now she has on red, then she has white again. Or her hair was slicked right here, and now it's curly, and then, but it was switched on, you know, either side. So all of that is important, even if you dress them and if their collar is up or down.
down. Like I've had people on films, I had a lot of head wraps on the movie Arranged, and the other people in the other department was like, oh, does it have to be perfect? Yes, because people are going to notice that, you know what I mean? And I'm a perfect, so like, yes, it does have to be perfect. So you're going to wait this 5 minutes for me to put it on.
Like I have a head wrap on now, but if I cock it to the side or turn it back or something, people are going to know, okay, that can't be the same or in the same conversation.
Just think, it looks like this right now. When you put it on tomorrow, even if you put it on the same way, it's not going to be exactly the same.
Right.
So like if I do this on you today, I have to take pictures of all angles just so that 2 weeks from now, I can get it as close as possible to make it match that. So on an independent film as a wardrobe supervisor, a lot of times it was only the costume designer on the film and maybe an intern. You have to do all those things as a wardrobe supervisor. You have to be the set dresser, which there's a person like on a bigger budget film. I'll just go through the bigger budget film first because that makes more sense when you go down. So on a big, you have the costume designer, the wardrobe supervisor. You might have a seamstress, and all they're doing is taking stuff in and letting stuff out, and that's it. You might have a distresser. All they're doing is making stuff look old, making people look like bums, making the clothes look like they've been worn. You know what I mean? If you're doing an 80s scene and they've been running around in the 80s for 2 years, you can't have a brand new 1980s jacket. You know what I mean? So there's some job that all it is to make it look like it's been worn, you know, in whatever way. They could be in battle. They might have.
So that's interesting. That's interesting. Because I never knew they had that. Because I thought it would just be the costume or the wardrobe. But you said they have it. It's called a distresser.
Yeah. All you're doing.
That's the job.
Like I spent a whole day.
Wow.
Just beating up shoes to make them look like they've been worn for 5 years. You know. So that's actual position. Then you might have someone, a shopper. Their only position is go to the costume designer, see what it is they need, and shop for the closest thing to that in the right sizes. Then there's just like people who just do the fittings and just do, so there's a lot of different roles. I'm trying to think of whatever other roles.
And people watching a movie, some people, of course, watch it with a critical eye if they are in the industry or fascinated with the industry. And then some people just watch a movie. They don't realize what it takes to put a movie together. And you said even the continuity, I think that's so important in movies, especially like you said, if you're filming the last scene first, then you don't know possibly what the hair would have looked like. So then you have to almost work backwards.
Mm-hmm.
Really
you do.
Try to get that
it
together.
Can be hard because on the movie, The Hungry Ghost, like it was just me and the costume designer. So the main role was a Black woman and they wanted a Black hairstyle. It was like braids and a mohawk and all this stuff. Me as a wardrobe person, it's not my job to find this person, but I had to, like, I just stepped in and found the hair person because I knew someone. But being on film, there's mostly white people in hair, makeup, and wardrobe. Nobody knew how to keep her hair up for that role, except.
And we've seen that before.
Exactly. So they were kind of lucky to have me because otherwise her hair would have been looking absolutely crazy and it wouldn't have matched for certain scenes. So like those are things that people don't think about.
So let's talk about that. Let's talk about that for a moment because I think that that's so important what you said. And I know I'm just going to take a quick, and I usually do this in the beginning since this, just really take a moment of silence for Breonna Taylor, George Floyd, and everyone out there because there's so many names that we know and there's so many names that we don't know. I literally woke up thinking about Breonna Taylor and thinking about sleeping in her bed after her essential job ended, meaning she just got off work, she was an essential employee, and she went home and got in the bed and got shot while she was sleeping in her bed in her home, saying it was the wrong home, the wrong person. And I literally woke up thinking about that. So I just want to just pause in the middle of this and just give a quick moment of silence for her and George Floyd. And I'll be here for 2-3 days counting the names of the other victims. Just give one moment. Thank you. All right.
Yeah.
So what you were saying, and I'm just thinking about what you were saying, and just having how race and how culture
Oh, yeah.
and all that play a big part. Because if you are all white folks creating a black scene, and you have black characters, and they're supposed to be unapologetically black, and whatever it is, like they said, we need a black hairstyle. A white person may not necessarily know what a black hairstylist looks like, or style, what it looks like, or how it's supposed to be, or the continuity even in that, and edges, everything that we are concerned about. So
wrong.
I want you to talk about that, and the reason why I want you to talk about that is because a lot of people feel that there are careers just in front of the camera, but there are so many amazing careers behind the camera that Black folks are needed. We're needed in these positions, as Rashida was talking about. So talk more about that, and how important it is to have Black folks be a part of, filmmaking and the process, even behind the scenes.
So my first introduction to film at all was a friend of my sister's used to work in film back when like The Sixth Sense and those movies were coming. And he used to say that he was the only Black person on set most of the time. Mm-hmm. So by the time I got into film, that was a good decade or more later. But in my department and in a lot of departments, there was like 1 or 2 Black people. Now in wardrobe, it will be a little different because gay Black men are big in that department. So you would see a lot of gay Black men in the wardrobe department. I would see a sprinkling of Black people, but that's the beauty of the Made in New York PA program, is that their whole mission is to diversify the film industry in New York. So they want people of all races. They want people of different ages. They kind of want more young people. They want people of different backgrounds, criminal records, different things like that, to get into the film industry, to diversify it, because a lot of people I knew that worked in film before I worked in film said they were the only Black person there. Even when I started working in film in 2006, I've worked on some pretty big projects where there were like 300-person crews, and I might see like for every 10 people or every 20 people, I might see 1 Black person.
So why do you think that is? Why do you think the numbers are so?
In the other industry, like, one, I think part of it is like, I think about the white people I went to high school with. My high school was like 99% white when I was there. I went to mainland, but I feel like a lot of white people, and this is not a bad thing, it just is what it is. I think Black people do the same thing. We just have a lot more to think about. They live in their white world. They have their white family. They have their white friends. Most of the people have their job. So they don't really have to think about these things until someone brings it to them. You know what I mean? Like, it's just not the forefront of their mind. I'm not even going to put it, you can put it towards systemic racism, but I'm not going to put it toward these individuals. Other than some of them now are saying, like, there was a tweet from, I forget what company, but he was like, I'm taking portfolios only from people of color. I want to, help this cause however I can. And I feel like a lot of those people need to see what's going on now to understand what the problem is. You know what I mean? So I would say 50 years ago, a white person comes to work and all they see is white people. They don't give it a second thought because that's their normal life. You know what I mean? Now, I go to work on a Spike Lee movie, which I have, and I see so many Black people, I'm shocked. I'm not shocked.
So what is that experience? Like, I can only imagine, because me being raised in South Jersey as well, I've gone to all white schools, I've gone to all Black schools, and I have gone to integrated schools. And I remember when I moved to Maryland 26 years ago, and I worked for a corporation and it was all Black. I was so happy. I said, this reminds me of the movie Boomerang. I was so happy and just pleased with that, where someone else might have been used to that. But there have been plenty of times where I was the only Black person, and sometimes I was the only Black woman. Yeah. So to walk into Spike Lee's joint, if you will, and work in that environment, what was that like?
I mean, it was awesome. And like you, I've had all the different gamuts of experience. So I'm from Pittsburgh. Our schools were mixed. They were International Studies Academy. So they had us thinking it was just one big happy world. And coming to New Jersey for high school, I was in culture shock. I was in total culture shock. And then I went to an historically Black college before I moved to New York. So that was a whole different experience. But that's what my experience, like, honestly, from the time I started working in New York till the time I got to that point, when I think back on it now, I've probably worked with 90% white people, you know, in printing, advertising. I worked in music. So I have mostly worked with white people. And I think at that point, walking into, even though there were white people, and I even brought my old roommate onto the job, and she was white, but there were white people on the job, but to come on a crew with majority brown people really made me look back at my just total career life. Like, wow, I've never met this many Black people in my life. So it was a great experience, but then it's also that other thing, like, I had a wonderful experience on that, but I'm also that type of Black person that if I'm on a job where there's very few Black people, I'm not going to assume that we're going to be cool just because we're Black, but I'm going to acknowledge you. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
and
yeah.
Just like,
it's just comforting
that.
to
It was
see.
like we're all going to acknowledge each other because here, you know? And it was just a great experience to work. Like, the costume designer was Black. He mostly worked, I think he did like The Color Purple or something on Broadway. He did like Broadway stuff, and they brought him on, and I was like the last person that they brought on. But I feel like they trusted me in a way that white people I've worked for don't, and not because I'm Black, but because maybe I'm new to the crew or whatever. But like these people, and it's like, listen, that was how I started doing product placement. I came on as a wardrobe assistant, like the lowliest wardrobe assistant, but what I ended up doing was wardrobe coordinator. That's a position that I speak about earlier, but they're the people who coordinate the deliveries and the product placement, which ended up being my specialty, was product placement, where you get free products from different brands and things like that. You got to write letters, let them know what's going on. They send you free product. So they trusted me with that as someone who had never, done this before. And I don't know that I would have gotten that opportunity on a predominantly white film, even though I would say they trusted me a lot. But there were always questions where I have to be looking at them sideways, like, do you think I'm stupid? So I just felt like they trusted me with a lot more than I was still early on in film. We filmed that we started in December of 2007. I'd only been working in film for a year, and they trusted me with something that it takes people years to get to sometimes. So I felt that, and it kind of boosted me in that industry in a different way than if I was just doing costume assistant or like intern or whatever work. So, it was an awesome experience for me.
Yeah. So when I think about you and just reading your bio, even on the previous show, and just looking at all of the things that you were doing and continue to do in your career, how does that make you feel when you go back and you look at everything and look at your experiences? Because I know after the last show, you were like, and I've done this and I've done this. And I really started to see all of the work that I've done and the things that I've created. What does that make you feel like, that you're really living in your purpose and you're doing what you love for a career? Like, what does that do to your soul?
Well, that's something that took a long time to even kind of come to terms with, because a lot of these things that I was working on, like I have a friend now who I met when I was working on that particular project. And we had a conversation. I'm just like, I wasn't in a good mental space then. And he's like, oh, well, you could have fooled me. So I was going through my own stuff and just like working, trying to make money and working, trying to, pursue whatever I was trying to pursue. But I wasn't mentally where I am now. So I just always looked at it at that time like, but I'm still not where I want to be, So at the time as I'm doing it, it didn't feel like that. It felt like I'm still not where I want to be. I should have just started doing art straight out of high school and looking at all the negatives of it. But when I got my mind to where I wanted it to be, I had to look back, and my sister has been a part of that as well. Just like, oh my God, it's crazy and blah, blah, blah. So I really had to look back. I mean, it's the same thing with just having an associate degree that we spoke about before. Like, I had to look back, like, at the things that I'd even done by the time I was maybe like 25 or 30 years old, that like some people will never even try, but they want to do. So it's like some of those things came out of like.
But that's an FIT degree. So let's be specific, not just say, oh, I got an associate's degree. No, you got a degree from FIT and you're working in the arts. So that's really how you have to say it. You can't just say, I got an associate's. And if you have an associate's out there, that's a major feat and a major accomplishment. So don't just belittle it because it's not something else. So that's an accomplishment in itself. So I just wanted you to just stand in that for a moment sometimes.
Exactly.
You're still finished.
Around maybe like 30, I had to really look at it like, wait a minute. I know personally at least 10 people who applied to FIT and didn't get in for whatever they were going for, you know? And it is easier to get in for some majors than fashion because fashion is the main thing. But like the fact that some people weren't smarter to say, you know what, I'm going to go in for photography and then I'm going to transfer to fashion if that's what I really want to do. Like that's the way that you can get into FIT. And a lot of people don't, you know what I mean? I went into advertising. I wasn't that into fashion back then, you know? Like people think that I got into wardrobe because I went to fashion school. I didn't go to fashion school for fashion. The only fashion classes I took were for concept design and marketing. I never actually took a fashion class, and I'm not really a fashion person. Wardrobe was just something that was easy to me. It's colors and shapes and time periods. It's not like, like this is the other misconception. Wardrobe is not the same. Wardrobe for film is not the same as wardrobe styling for like editorials. For like a magazine, you're making people look fabulous and you're flawless. For film, you might be trying to make someone look older. You might be trying to make them ugly. You might be trying to make them look beat up, like you're dressing for a character. So that's more of concept design than fashion design. Not that there are concepts in fashion design, but it's just a different story. It's a different thing. So you're not necessarily dressing. I can't think of a film where we were mostly dressing for fashion. We were dressing for the story. So that's something that it doesn't really take fashion design experience to do, you know?
So because we're approaching the end of the show, and I just really want to talk about Kente Couture.
Oh, yeah.
I want to talk about, to find out what's going on with that and when will that be rolling out and what can the people find and what can they expect from that collection?
So the website should be launching in the next 2 to 4 weeks, but you can reach out to us on Kente_Couture with a K. Couture is with a K on Instagram and Kente Couture on Facebook, where I'm just posting information about kente cloth and different things and the artists that I'm working with. So that just came about randomly, like I was posting a lot about African stuff. So a lot of young Africans reached out to me. Some were scammers, some were just regular people just wanting to talk. So this guy reached out to me and we were just chatting every so often for like months. He never asked me for anything. He never tried to talk to me or anything on Facebook. And then he wanted to see more of my artwork. So I directed him to Instagram. He's like, well, I don't really use Instagram. And when I went to his Instagram, I saw this beautiful kente cloth that he makes. And I was like, oh, I can use that for my artwork. So I ordered some from him from Accra, Ghana. They're like outside of Accra in Ghana. So I just ordered from him for my own personal stuff. And then I realized I could sell it, because I have people who make clothes, who make hats, who make different things. So I realized I could sell it or just make things for me. Bags, I can make bags and things like that. And I ordered more. And then he hit me up like, oh, well, we have clothes and we have these fanny packs. So I'm like, oh, that's cool. So I ordered more. And the stuff is just kind of like, people are interested in it. People are buying it. People are asking about the website. Like, I've gotten more interest with this from people I don't know on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook than any other thing that I've done. So it was just something that came about randomly that, I really had to put a lot of trust into this kid, because I sent him money through a service that I never heard of all the way in Africa. And, you know, people think that all Africans are scammers, and just had to put some trust in my people and say, you know what, I know I'm gonna get this stuff. And if not, I wasted a couple $100. I waste that on cigarettes every couple months. So
Yeah.
like, I this and see, and it ended up being a young man who is really trying to get his stuff out there and find some things for himself. He's young. So
you joined together in business. Is this your business together, or is this just your?
It's kind of more like a featured artist for Kente Couture, because
okay,
that's been put into it is my money, so it's really my business. But like, this is something I can do with more artisans than just him. Like, another weaver reached out to me, so we want to have on the website, we're setting it up so like there's where you can shop, there's this, that, and the third, and then there's a featured artist page. And I want to get it to the point where it's almost like social media for this type of stuff.
That's awesome.
People can just get on there, like maybe the artists pay a fee, maybe the people getting on there pay a fee just to link for that. You know what I mean?
Awesome.
Because even though traditionally weaves kente cloth, somebody might want a pattern that he's not used to making.
Mud cloth. There, you put mud cloth in there and all the different. So is it going to be like tribal African cloth? Is it going to be like African art in a sense, or?
It's straight kente cloth and kente printed things. So kente cloth is very specific. Like if you see it, kente cloth. You know, but then they get printed kente cloth, and that's the hand woven side. But then there's printed kente cloth that his friends make the fanny packs and the clothes and things out of. And they also make the clothes out of the woven kente cloth, but that stuff costs a lot more. So
this is for real, and I really want to stress this, and I want everybody to know out there, this is real kente cloth. Yeah. There are a lot of imitations and duplicates, but she's talking about real kente cloth from Africa. There is a difference. Tell them about, and we're running out of time, but tell them about the texture and the hardness and the fullness of the fabric.
I saw the pictures online, and when I got this stuff, I was like, wow, this is gorgeous. And that's what made me go ahead and order the clothes and the fanny packs. Like, okay, I can trust this guy. We're sending me quality work. It's all quality, handmade. And, you know, it's just beautiful. Like, you can use it as a scarf. You can use it as a hat wrap. You can make something out of it. You can use it as a table runner for a nice event you're having. You can use it as wall hangings. Like, there are so many possibilities with what you can use it for, just to change up your decor or whatever it is that you want. Like, I feel like the possibilities are kind of endless, and everybody's kind of into this back to Africa movement and all this stuff. So, you know, I'm just hoping it's something that kind of takes off, you know? Yeah. Oh, and the last thing we're doing is, because even though the printed kente stuff is made in Africa, it's hand sewn in Africa, the fanny packs and whatever, most of the printed kente cloth that's not hand woven that you get in Africa was made in China or by the Dutch. We're actually, me and my sister, because she's actually working on the website. Me and my sister are working on printing our own kente printed cloths, so it'll still have that texture of the hand printed cloth, and it'll all be made by Black people in either Africa or America. Every aspect.
Wow.
So
that's Black owned. That's what, you know, all of this. I mean, shopping Black owned is not anything new, but now with the recent events of George Floyd and police brutality and the protest, and you know, Black folks getting tired, and even July 7th coming up where no one's going to shop, but it's going around, shop Black, you know, Black owned businesses. So if you're interested in supporting a Black owned business, myself and Rashida, and there's so many others, definitely support her. Before we end, give all of your information, how they can get in contact with you on your website as well as social media.
So the best way to contact.
And her artwork is on sale.
Yes, my artwork is for sale. So the best way to contact me is www.analogartnyc. That's ANALOGART NYC.com. All of my social medias except my Twitter are on there, which that Twitter is also Analog Art NYC. My Instagram is Analog Art NYC, and my Facebook is Analog Art NYC. I post about all my different things on Analog Art NYC, but if you want to be specific, you can go to kentecouture.com. That's Kente, Kente, Couture, KOUTURE.com. That's in the works, but you can also go to Kente_Couture for Instagram, and I think it's just Kente Couture for Twitter. But those are all of my social media handles, my website. So yeah, everything is in the works.
All right. So when I get my fanny pack in the mail, maybe I'll have Rashida back on, and maybe we can, once the website is up and running, maybe we can have you back on to try to sell all this. And then I'll wear my fanny pack around my neck so you guys can see it. You know, you can't see it because I was saying I have my beautiful shirt, but you can't really see it here. So maybe I'll wear that around
body. You can do it like a body and have it up here.
Exactly. But thank you so much for joining me again, Rashida. I appreciate you. So of course you always have a home here anytime you're trying to get the word out about one of your projects, or to get your sales up, or to get some, support. Definitely come back here.
Yes, of course.
All right, so thank you everybody for tuning in to Kendell Lenice Live right here on Facebook. Please subscribe, share, and like. It's so important that you do that. Thank you so much for tuning in. Once again, remember, you are a star, so don't allow anyone to dim your shine. God bless. Peace.